All right, Allison, thanks so much for being on the Friends with Wheels podcast. If I could start off by asking how you got started with Provail, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I started with Provail. I just moved to Washington State from New York a few years ago. So I was looking for work, and my background is actually in teaching. In New York, I was a certified English teacher for secondary education. But I actually did have a little bit of experience working in job coaching and disability services in New York as well. So I figured when I got here, wasn't sure if I was going to take the steps to transfer my teaching certification. But I thought, while I make up my mind, why don't I look for some jobs in disability services since I have experience and I really enjoyed the work I did with the ARC back in New York. And I saw Provail, and one thing led to another. I was hired as an employment consultant, and 3 years later, I am not really thinking about transferring my teaching certificate anymore, and have just been loving working with Proval and loving the work that I do.
Yeah, I actually spoke to a former teacher of mine from middle school, and she works in the public education system in New York, and she talked about how New York is always about the hustle and it never stops. So,
Yes, definitely.
yeah. So, what do you do at Provail?
So now, when I first started, I was hired as an employment consultant. Which should I explain what that is for
Sure.
anyone who? Okay. So, an employment consultant is a role that ties in a few different things. One of them is job coaching, and the other is job development. So, we work with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities specifically who are looking for work. And we partner with them to kind of get a sense of what their employment goals are, what are their support needs. We go out to the community, talk with businesses, and try to find a good fit in terms of the business needs and also our participants' needs. And then once we get the job, we support them on site while they're learning and help to come up with any maybe additional training needs or um, you know other supports, visual guides, visual aids, task lists, things like that, and try to get them stable and good on the job. Now, and this has been the case for the last 2 years. I'm a transition specialist. So that kind of ties in all of those things of the employment consultant, but I also work specifically with the school to work program, which is it's statewide. So school to work is a program. It's a post high school program, but it's connected with high schools for 18 to 22. Um, so also for the IDD community, who they get the chance to participate in some internships while they're there with local businesses to get some work experience. They work on job skills and other skills and tools that can help someone be successful in the workplace. So then in the last year of this program, if they so choose, they get to choose a provider, an employment provider, such as Provail, and get paired with a job coach, either an employment consultant or a transition specialist. I'm a transition specialist because I only do school to work. So then we meet with them, do assessments to again kind of what I was talking about before, get a sense of what people want from their career, what are their job goals, what are their needs, and yeah, how do we help them enter into the workforce.
So let's say, for example, I wanted to be go into like the new go into work at a newsroom. How does a job coach help the person with a disability, accomplish that goal if they want to get there?
So for something like working with a newsroom and the process, it's one of the things I love about this job. The process really is so different from person to person, and also depending on what they're looking to do, and how you get into an industry. So something like working in a newsroom, what I would personally do is I would do some research, get a sense of local opportunities, local stations, and do my best to find contact information just to have a conversation, get your foot in the door with someone, because a lot of this work is really about connections. So ideally, I would try and get in contact, a news station or some other journalistic body, and start asking questions. Who can I talk to? Is there HR that I can talk to? Is there an office manager? And ideally, you want to kind of work your way up and you want to be able to talk to people who make decisions, because a big part of what we also do when finding someone a job is we, and this is not for everyone, but it is for a lot of the people that we serve, is try to find something customized. So in addition to making sure that they have the accommodations that they need, some people may have restrictions in terms of the hours that they work. Or there might be some tasks that are really inaccessible for them, but they can do all the other tasks. So that is also a big part of why this process involves conversation, because we want to make sure that everyone's happy, everyone's needs are met, and that we're helping the operations, day-to-day operations flow smoothly.
Yeah, because I would be like filling out job applications where I would submit my cover letter, submit my resume, and sometimes it'd be tedious because you're submitting tons and tons of applications and tons of rejections. So I can speak to that too. So I know what you said about like jo something about job coaching. I've heard similar stories about vocational rehabilitation. Is that kind of the same thing, or is it a little bit different?
Yes. Yeah. So job coaching is a part of vocational rehabilitation services. We do work closely with DVR, the Department for Vocational Rehabilitation. So yeah, it kind of falls under that. But vocational rehabilitation is also that, can also be that job development piece, or that skills training piece, or sometimes part of it is systems navigation to make sure that people are aware of and able to access resources that will also aid them in finding stable employment, such as getting connected with access, the transportation access, or DART, depending on where you are. So that can be part of it too. Vocational rehabilitation is a really big umbrella, actually.
Hmm. So if I were to apply for a job, would I have to go through the traditional application process, or go through like the job coaching route? Because you said you navigate your way through like HR and network connections. So like how would I do that, for example?
Well, what I would say, so if you were working with a job coach, and again, and like I said, like this, so person centered. I'm sure you know the term person centered, right?
Hmm.
Such a big part of what we do. Everything really is so individualized. So let's say you're working with a job coach. We want this process to be as person centered as possible and as person led, as participant led. So it would really be kind of up to you and your needs of how much you do. So it could just be you have your job coach come with you to help advocate for accommodations during an interview, um, or giving you ideas for what direction you want to go in with this process. I mean, and in terms of connecting with it with HR, and that process, what I've learned over the last few years of doing this, is a lot of it really is just being persistent, and following up, because sometimes you might reach out to an HR and you don't hear back. So you send a follow-up email or a follow-up phone call. Ideally, we like to do a lot of the job coaching in person if you can. Not every place is accessible just from a stranger. So that's something that I would suggest is be persistent. I try to take different approaches for how I contact people's and different organizations. Sometimes I will just walk up in person, see if I can get in touch with someone. Sometimes it does involve email. Sometimes I'll go find an organization on LinkedIn, and I will try and find a decision maker of some kind through their kind of their connections on LinkedIn, and I'll send them a message and say, hey, I'm job developing on behalf of a client of mine, and um, I think they'd be a really good fit for I try to come with ideas in advance of what this job looks like, especially if there's no posting that I'm following up with. Is there someone I can talk to about how we can make this happen? No strings attached. Let's just have a conversation. And that's kind of the general model of and like the traditional application process where you're just submitting. It does involve a lot of rejection, but doing this other approach where you are contacting places directly, asking to speak to people, and being persistent can sometimes help you kind of get around that application roadblock that so many people are facing these days.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people nowadays, they tend to go the traditional route, submit my cover letter, submit my resume, but they don't know how to get a workaround, like you said. Like it's like a matter of navigating those waters, you know?
Especially with AI filtering out so many
Oh yeah.
qualified people and so many great applications. Yeah, I think it's for even for people who aren't receiving vocational rehabilitation services. I think these methods are really can be good for anyone to make connections because that's what that's really what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. And what have you learned in doing this work as a job coach? What sorts of um things do you take away from doing that?
That's such a big question. There's so many different things, and I guess it depends on like what part who I'm talking to and what part of the process I'm speaking to. So what I might tell a business, for example, is that because people with disabilities and the people who serve them, because we're in this space, right? Thinking about how to make work more accessible, how to accommodate things, and what we often find is that things we come up with systems to make the work accessible often improve business operations for everyone. Um, and when businesses are not open to accommodating disabilities and to working with people with disabilities, they really lose out because coming in with this perspective of how can I make this accessible is it can be really really valuable for everyone, even if you don't need accommodations. There was a job that we unfortunately we don't have the job anymore because that organization had to scale down. So they had to, it was largely volunteer based anyway. So they had to cut back on some of the paid positions. But so we had someone who was pretty high support needs and was involved in a kind of food rescuing nonprofit organization that helped get food out to food insecure people, whether it be kids at schools or also the unhoused community. And so our participant would help make these I think we call them snack packs. So for him to make it more accessible for him, we created a kind of assembly line situation. So he would have all his materials and just move down. And after coming up with that system, everyone used it. Even when he wasn't there, everyone was using that system because it made it just so smooth and so much better for everyone.
Hmm. And like for those who want to, become a job coach like you did, could you share a little bit about your experience? What was the journey like?
Yeah. So, like I said, I started in New York, and I was just a job coach. I don't mean to say just as I wasn't doing much, but I wasn't doing any job development. And it was actually right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I was still getting my master's degree in teaching. And actually, my family has kind of a history working in disability services. My mom worked with the ARC. My stepmom worked with the ARC. So it's been on my radar really for my whole life. And so I figured I'd give it a try. I didn't know that much about job coaching, but I had this teaching background, and I thought, well, there's an element of teaching with that. So I started working with them, and we in our participants at the ARC, we call them individuals, but the people we serve, our clients. This is at the beginning of the pandemic, and so a lot of them were frontline workers. They were I can't remember the term. It's just 6 years ago, but they were essential workers. That's what it
Essential
was.
workers, yeah. Hmm.
They were essential workers, so they really needed that support, and we were out there every day, and it was awesome. I learned so much about, I guess, just working in general and accommodations and kind of understanding what's possible in terms of giving everyone access into the workforce. I did a little bit of work with as a job coach for the New York State division for the blind. um, which was, similar, but, different, had different considerations because there was the like sighted guiding piece. And then I moved to Washington after that. And when I got to Provail, now I had this opportunity to do the job development piece. So not just the job coaching was kind of in my wheelhouse because I had this teaching background and I loved that because I love helping people learn, just like I always have. But then I got here into the job development piece, and that was super exciting because you get to really throw all your energy into making this happen because it is there's a lot of resistance. You'll find a lot of people who are not familiar with either working with people with disabilities or disability services in general. They have a lot of preconceptions, misconceptions about what it's like hiring people with disabilities. And so you have to you have to be kind of tenacious to get past these biases that people have, and it's amazing because you can really see the impact you have on a community because you see the way people when they are willing to challenge their biases and open their minds and open their businesses to the people that we serve. It impacts the whole workforce. It impacts the whole team. Everyone benefits from an accessible environment. Everyone feels the respect and the dignity that comes with that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said biases because oftentimes when people with disabilities apply for a job, they get rejected, right? And so then they come up with these sort of ways to not hurt their feelings. Thank you so much for applying, but we decided to go with another candidate, or your application doesn't fit our vision for our company. So I feel that that happens a lot. I've had that in my experience too, so.
Absolutely. And they don't realize, they in their mind they think, oh well, it's going to be this whole thing to accommodate this person, and they don't realize that it really doesn't have to be that. Accommodating a person's support needs or their workplace needs can be really straightforward if you're just open to it. It doesn't have to, and like I said, oftentimes it benefits everyone and it benefits productivity for the whole team.
Hmm.
Not
And
that it
so,
should be that it have to be about productivity, right? There's
yeah.
there's a little bit of a tension there, I think, and in this field we talk about it a little bit of how we go about these conversations with businesses because we do want to assure them that this benefits the workforce and it benefits productivity. That accessibility is not only the right thing to do, but it's a smart business move. So we do want that to be a part of the message, but also, you know, this is a human rights field, and we don't want to reduce someone like that, their value and is just based on a capitalistic productivity, and that you are not worthy of having a job if maybe you're less productive, because we don't that's also not the messaging here. So there's a little bit of a tension in how we approach that, because even if someone, maybe they are a little bit less productive than someone else, they can still be a valuable member of a workforce and still deserve the opportunity to work and contribute to their community and contribute to the economy. So that's, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because
Yeah, because
it's
there's people with different types of disabilities, physical, people with chronic illnesses, that kind of stuff. So important to level that playing field.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. So, for those who want to become a job coach or do what you're doing, what tips of advice would you give them for those who want to be a part of that space?
Well, I would say, I mean, in Washington State has honestly really robust infrastructure for employment services, in particular for people with disabilities. I was blown away. And I saw this when I was looking for work in the field when I first got here. Wow, there are a lot of providers, and there really are. There are a ton of different agencies who provide employment services. So there are a lot of options, and the field is growing all the time. So for someone who's interested in starting this work, I would say go online, look around. The jobs are out there. For job coaching services. And in terms of kind of the mental part of starting this work, I I would kind of say brace yourself because it is a fight. Like I said, it is a human rights field, employment for anyone who wants it. And unfortunately, the wheels of change can be a little slow to turn sometimes. So get ready for fighting for the work that you do. Like I said, to kind of get past those biases, but also this field. I can mostly only speak to employment. I've mostly just worked in employment services when it comes to disability services, but it is a field full of people who care a lot, who are very passionate, and who really believe in the importance of this work and the how meaningful having a job is, both in terms of financial, giving people greater financial autonomy, but also being integrated into their communities. So it's hard work, but it's invigorating, I would say.
Yeah, it's good work.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
good work.
Yeah. So, I understand that Washington State has a lot of access to services and that kind of stuff. Is it different, like from New York, for example? Because you were there before you moved to Washington State, so I don't know if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think New York also, if we're looking at all 50 states, I think New York also has fairly robust services. But just from what I saw, there are not nearly as many agencies, and even a lot of the disability services that are available in New York. From what I've seen, there is more emphasis on, and of course, these are also really great services, but like day have facilities, and housing too, of course, independent housing. Um, and there is, like I said, there is job coaching, but it's not as expansive. It's not, and it doesn't feel as all hands on deck. Like I said, with the ARC, the model is like my supervisor did the job development, and then we just showed up to job coach. Or what I really love about the model here, is that the people who are providing the support, the direct support providers, are also doing the job development. Um, so I think that's part of why it's so much more robust here. But there is still plenty of work, in these all over the United States, but in New York as well. I just think Washington, especially because Washington is a workforce state, which
Mm.
means that, for a person who is receiving different kinds of disability. I mean, the systems navigation is one of the hardest parts of this whole process. But people who are receiving certain kinds of services, they need to try working first. So the rule is you want 9 months of trying to get a job or trying to work, before a person can, for example, receive community inclusion services, which is another way, to to participate in the community, but without the requirement of it being paid work. So Provail also has community inclusion services, and so it's a similar model in that you have your caseload with your participants, you meet with them, get a sense of what are they interested in doing, how do they want to interact with the community, what will be meaningful and satisfying, and then they try and find opportunities. But for most people, the majority of people, they have to try working for 9 months first. So, I think it's great that Washington State believes in the right to work for everyone and the importance of entering the workforce. But um, that can be tough. But so I think that is part of the reason why employment services are so robust here, is because there's a great need for support with accessing the workforce to, while you're getting into that, nine
Yeah,
months.
because I feel like people with disabilities, there's different people have different kinds of disabilities, and not everybody's going to go work in an office or work at a big company. But yeah, with remote work, hybrid work, it's so much easier, I think.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely
And
opens doors.
yeah, and so for those who want to now this is my last question. So for the companies that want to be more inclusive, when it comes to hiring, and retaining people with disabilities, what can they do? Because Prevail provides that additional step, but how can companies sort of say, hey, if I want my company to have this vision of including people with disabilities, you know, like, how can companies sort of take that next step to do that, basically?
Yeah, so that can look like a couple different things, depending on if it's a small, more local business or a big corporate kind of chain. Because in the corporate level, one of the things that we run into time and time again, a big barrier these days, they say, "Oh well, hiring is done at the corporate level. We can't make those decisions," especially when you're looking to find customized employment that are more accessible for people. So, for in a situation like that. Um, this would have to come at the corporate level to have flexibility built into the model, where a person can come and maybe they only do 75% of the tasks, and having that flexibility built in where with and like I said, and this is something that can benefit people who don't need accommodations, people who, maybe they have a disability, but they're not asking for any sort of customization or accommodation, or anyone, where jobs are they're not just spit out by a machine. We're hiring for this position. This is exactly what the position looks like, and it will look like this is what the position will look like for for the end of time. But instead, saying what are our needs? Who are our personnel? And can we have jobs look different? Does every job need to be the same? And of course, part of this will have to be, there is a financial piece because uh, they want, they have certain numbers of personnel hours, and there's, to an extent, I recognize that there is a lack of flexibility there. But even within that, I think everything has become very standardized now, very automated. That is just not how human beings are. So that's what I would say for the corporate level is making it so that there is flexibility and that people can bring bring the human interaction back with hiring. That's a big part of it too, is make hiring human again. Um,
Yeah.
and on a local level, I think for a lot of small businesses, a lot of it really is just being open-minded, and and I mean, having that flexibility piece as well, but being willing to have the conversations, because I think a lot of businesses that we talk to, that they say, no, actually, we have no hiring needs. It's because they're not in that headspace. They're not used to looking at their business and thinking, how can my business be improved by a customized position? And how, because a lot of people, they say, I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I think it's great. I wish you the best, but we just can't accommodate that here. We just can't fit in a customized position. So there are people who are on board in terms of the mission, but they just feel like they can't do it. But I would urge a lot of businesses that feel that way to be open and have the conversation to see what the possibilities are.
Mm-hmm. And for those who want to find out more information about you or your work, what can they do?
Well, I am on LinkedIn, Allison Doherty. Um, and if you're interested in learning about the work that I do, I work for Provail. We have a website, provail.org, but there are a lot of wonderful providers that all do amazing work and provide amazing services. Um, and you can learn more by either just perusing these organizations. If you were to just Google, for example, support employment, um, or disability services in general. There's a lot out there, and there's still need. So if anyone, I would encourage anyone who finds this interesting to apply. There's a great need for people who want to do the work and who care.
And people can also log into Provail, right?
Yes, yeah, people can check us out. Yeah, provail.org, I think. I should have been
Yeah,
yeah,
provail.org. Yeah.
provail.org.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we're a very big provider. We have several different departments. We also have community and living, or community and lifestyle. Or with housing services, we have assistive technology services, and the community inclusion piece in addition to employment. So there's a lot going on with us.
Yeah, you guys have a social media handle?
We do, I think, our for on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram if I'm being honest, so I'm actually not sure.
Yeah.
I used Instagram. Yeah, just Provail. Our handle is Provail underscore WA, so WA for Washington
Mm-hmm.
is our Instagram. I think I think we talked about getting a TikTok. I don't know if we have one. I'm not on TikTok
Yeah,
either. I'm,
because
I'm not on social media.
I feel like TikTok is the thing nowadays.
It definitely is, even though I should get with the program and check it out. But I don't really know much in the way of TikTok. But we
I
might have
don't
one.
know. I don't either. So, yeah, I'm not on TikTok either.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think we're on TikTok yet. Something we talked about as a way of actually as a way of kind of increasing our reach and our advocacy to do that open-minded piece. Just let people know what supported employment is all about, and how it can change lives, and how it just benefits everyone. And something that sometimes when I do this work, when I go and talk to businesses, they might say, "Well, thank you for doing this." Don't thank me. This
Mhm.
I love my job and it benefits me. I learn and I grow every day as a result of this job. This job makes my life better. Don't thank me. I'm just doing good work that needs to be done, and I feel privileged to be doing this work.
Okay. All righty. Okie dokie.